Good day. Today is Friday, September 30th. This is Steve Chamberlain, your interim superintendent. Today, I'm coming to you from the Mount Vernon Village School Library. Um, and believe it or not, I'm sitting at a Lego table, which has got to be the coolest thing ever. A table you can just put your Legos on. Love being in libraries. I was supposed to have this done on Wednesday. A little busy this week, but glad to be here on Friday. And in the background, the second graders are having a presentation, so it's great. So, the last couple of weeks, I've talked about instruction from the caring relationship to evidence-based instructional practices. Today, we're going to talk about feedback. Feedback is connected to assessment. We have a whole bunch of assessments. Students this week are taking NWA assessments. That is a self-adjusting test that we can find out the present level of performance of kids. We use it to guide program and look at students as a whole. And students from all over the country take NWA tests. And so that's an important part of our work. Of course, in the spring, we have state assessments. And that's where we get a chance to see where we are. And we look at other in relation to other schools in New Hampshire where we are in accomplishment of the state standards. And then we have classroom assessments, which are, to me, I find the most important, are the classroom assessments. And we have two kinds. It's like a different language than when I was a kid, but the language of assessments we use are formative and summative. A formative assessment, those are assessments for teachers. That's the teachers use to continually guide and check in with students on where they are in learning progression. Like when I was a high school math teacher, I would formative assess kids every 15, 20 minutes to make sure I didn't lose them. Because if you lose them, it's hard to get them back. So we formative assess. And then we have the summative assessments. Those are more traditional, the test and a unit test. And that's a culmination. That's a culminating activity at the end of a unit. As I've as I've talked about earlier this year, my son is in his first year teaching at a school in Massachusetts. He gave his first summative assessment this week, and he called and we get a chance to talk about what are you going to do now and the feedback on a summative assessment. So the assessments give us an opportunity to provide feedback to kids, and feedback is a high leverage strategy. The more feedback we can give to children, the more we understand we can help them learn. And how you give feedback, there's a lot of research about the way we give feedback, and that either supports the learning or it actually can extinguish the learning. So, for example, he's a math teacher at a school in Massachusetts. I talked to him, if you just simply mark the problems wrong and hand that back to the student, that actually reduces achievement because the motivational factor, students get demoralized. But if you mark this, just put a little highlight next to wrong answers and have the students work through them and develop and revisit and relearn and try again, that actually continues the learning process. So feedback, actually, high quality feedback can overcome even just regular instruction. That's how important feedback is. And the more feedback we give kids, the more we can narrow in our instruction and hone our instruction to make sure we're in what I've talked about before, what's called a zone of proximal development. It's critical that we want to teach in that zone. Too hard and kids get demoralized, too easy and kids get bored. Next week we'll talk about motivation and what are the evidence and what research do we have about how to motivate kids throughout the learning process. Just a quick announcement, the SAU board is actively working to find the next full superintendent, and that process has begun. And there is going to be a public forum, and there'll be a press release that comes out and joins this video at Wilkins Elementary School, the multipurpose room, on Tuesday, October 11th at 7 o'clock. The SAU board really wants to hear from the community about the traits and attributes and the characteristics that you want to see in the next superintendent. I'm, of course, biased, but I do think hiring a superintendent is a very, very important thing. So please consider participating and helping the SAU board hire the best educational, instructional superintendent they can to serve this extraordinary community, all these communities well. I hope you have a great weekend. And next week, I'll try to get this back on Wednesday. But thanks for your support and have a great weekend.